Let's have a few minutes of silent meditation, calm the mind, and make it so that we can listen to the Dharma. So let's generate a motivation and recognize that our motivation is the most important aspect of whatever action we do. So it's not how we look to other people, whether people praise us, whether we look good and we're doing the right thing. What's really important is what's in our heart. Why are we doing this? And when we first come to the Dharma, it may not be clear to us why we're listening. We're curious. That's a good a good aspiration, motivation. I'm curious. I want to know. But then as we begin to understand more of the teachings, then we have to dig a bit deeper. Why do I want to know? What am I going to do with what I'm learning? And we also have to question, is my learning just intellectual? I want to learn how many of this and that and the definition of that and this. Or am I learning because I want to really change my mind, my outlook on life, my response to other sentient beings' actions? Am I open to listening to the teachings? Or am I chock-a-block full with my own opinions, and I'll see if what the teacher says matches with my ideas or not? So it's really a questioning process and an observation process to see where we're coming from. Because if we're looking just to be important, because we know a lot, then we could study rocket science instead and be important for understanding that. If you think Buddhism is easier than rocket science, some aspects of Buddhism may be easier to intellectually understand, but actually putting it into practice, maybe getting yourself to the moon on a rocket is easier. I don't know. So let's try to approach the teachings with an attitude of compassion for ourselves and for others, with an attitude that really wants to learn and understand and look at our lives and the state of our mind in terms of the Buddha's teachings. And then see what teachings we can apply to really improve our way of thinking, our way of looking at situations, our way of relating to others. And at the beginning, we may want to do that so that our life right now is better because we're a nicer person. But let's go beyond that and think about karma and how, if we have a proper motivation, we can create virtuous karma, which brings a fortunate rebirth in the future. But if we do things motivated by clinging attachment, anger, and just our usual confusion, then we may wind up creating the cause for unfortunate rebirths. But just having a good rebirth isn't the whole path. We've had many good rebirths in the past, but we haven't gotten ourselves out of samsara. So that's the next step to expand our motivation to. And then we have to really ask ourselves, am I going to be content just to get myself out of samsara? What about everybody else? Can I get myself out of samsara and do a little bit here and there to help others so I don't look like I'm completely selfish? Or in my heart, is there really the wish to be of benefit to them and hang in there for the long term, maybe even eons, to see if we can guide sentient beings to awakening in the same way that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have stuck around with us for eons, desperately trying to guide us to awakening, even though we fight it. Because the 8 worldly concerns are so nice. So take a moment, and as best as we can, let's try and generate that bodhicitta motivation, striving for full awakening to be of the greatest benefit to all living beings. So open your eyes and come out of your meditation. Okay, so this is the third in a series of 4 talks on searching for the self. And so I'm referring to His Holiness's book with a beautiful picture of Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, on the cover. And in the first session, we talked about why it's important to hear about emptiness, and a little bit about the purpose of learning about emptiness, what its nature is. Yeah. And then last week we went into Nagarjuna's exquisite proof of how the 3 jewels and all conventional phenomena exist and function precisely because they lack inherent existence. Yeah. So that one's going to take us a while to understand. So this week, I thought to do something maybe that's a little bit easier than last week, but still has enough challenges. And so to proceed in the book, on the topic of who is suitable to receive teachings on emptiness. Yeah. Because we have to do a lot of preparation to really be able to understand these teachings properly and with the right motivation. And, you know, once you have a little bit of education, then you think, well, I'm pretty intelligent. I have some education. Emptiness shouldn't be too hard. Yeah. I have my degree, my piece of paper proving that I graduated from junior high school. So, you know, I must have a good education. Yeah. But learning Dharma isn't like doing things in the world. Yeah. It's a different way of doing things. And so learning, we may have to start with the intellectual learning to learn the vocabulary and the concepts. But then we have to really think about what it all means, think about how it applies to our life, and then begin to meditate on it and integrate it. So this thing about, who's suitable to receive the teachings, I have several little stories to tell about that. The first Dharma course I went to was at Lake Arrowhead, California, and Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe were teaching it. And apparently it was the first time where Rinpoche had actually taught emptiness. He had skirted around it and 8 worldly concerns and bodhicitta and the guru, and now he was going to teach emptiness. So it was really cool, you know. He led us in the meditation, searching for the I. Is it in the body? Is it in the mind? You know. And I thought, yeah, I really, I get this. And at that time, the lamas had these things called Sangha exams for the ordained Sangha. And they had to give a talk and then answer some questions about a subject of their talk. So I was totally new. This was my first Dharma course. But I knew I wanted to ordain. And I thought, well, when I ordain and it's my turn to give a Sangha exam, I'm going to talk about emptiness. Oh dear. I soon grew out of that thought. Because I heard this teaching. Yeah. Another few episodes with wanting to learn about emptiness. Okay, so this time I was already a nun. I was still a baby nun. And Kyabje Song Rinpoche had been teaching. I attended his teachings. And, he had given a lot about emptiness. So he was staying in at Khyentse Chitram Rinpoche's Labrang in Dharamsala at the time that I happened to be in Dharamsala. And so I went to Sangha, to visit Sangha Rinpoche, bowed and made my offering, and then took out my list of questions about emptiness. Yeah, which I thought were like, they were good questions, which showed that I'm kind of, thinking about it. I'm a good student. So I told, Rinpoche my questions. And he looked at me and he said, well, you probably won't understand anything I say, but I'll say something. And then he proceeded to give a talk on emptiness. Yeah. But I'll never forget that first sentence, Okay. So this is another topic that Geshe-la should be teaching, not me. So Jewel Heart people, you should actually ask Geshe-la to request him to give some teachings. Okay. So to receive the teachings on emptiness, we have to be a good vessel. And there's lots of warnings in the sutras and in the scriptures about teaching emptiness to the wrong people. Okay? And what's the danger in doing that? What's the harm? If you teach something that's too advanced, doesn't it just go in one ear and out the other and they don't remember anything? Or it just plants seeds, so it doesn't matter if you make a big boo-boo? When you're teaching emptiness and when you're listening to the teaching, it sounds like you could pass that off. But no, we can't do it. In terms of teaching emptiness, we studied Nagarjuna's Precious Garland before, and you may remember there were several verses about teaching to the suitable vessel, and what happens if, as students, we follow a teacher who doesn't explain it well, or if maybe we follow a teacher who explains it well, but we totally misunderstand the whole thing. And in Precious Garland, he gave the example of, I guess in a jungle, what kind of jungle animals they follow one after the other, like elephants, I guess, Cows, yeah, I thought he talked about cows, but you don't have cows in jungles. But anyway, let's imagine. Imagine a cow in a jungle, yeah. And if the head cow goes down one path, everybody else, all the other cows just follow. They say, head cow knows where we're going. I don't have to think too much about things. I'll just follow that person. Okay. But then the head cow maybe is walking along the edge of a cliff and everybody else is following. Or the head cow is walking through a very dangerous area of the jungle where there's lots of poisonous snakes and everybody else follows. So the point of this was you've got to think clearly about the teachings and not just follow blindly. Yeah? And not just, for example, hear the word emptiness, or some people say voidness, and think, yeah, I know emptiness. My wallet is empty. My refrigerator is empty. Yeah. When I get stoned, my mind is empty. Yeah. So I just have to clear my mind of everything. And then I've realized emptiness. Totally incorrect. Okay? So then we've got to think, well, what does emptiness mean? And then we have to hear teachings on it and think about the teachings and really try to understand it. And at first, it doesn't seem too difficult, you know. You could give your Sangha exams on it after one talk. But then, as you get into some of the texts and the points that the great Indian and Tibetan sages have raised, yeah, then you realize you don't even understand the questions they're asking, let alone the answers. Okay. So the danger in misunderstanding emptiness is if we think emptiness means nothing exists, yeah, or if we think that emptiness means karma doesn't exist, so that our actions are empty or free of any kind of ethical content or ethical meaning or ethical repercussions, yeah, then we're going to wind up in a very nihilistic position of saying, well, in the end, when you search for anything, you can't find it, so nothing exists. So then why do I need to keep any ethical conduct at all? Yeah, nothing ultimately exists, so there's no good, there's no bad. I can do anything as long as I don't get caught. It's fine. Okay? And that's not a difficult attitude to have. Yeah? Especially when you, look at all the New Age things that are coming out. Yeah? So that's one extreme. Yeah? Either there's no cause and effect, there's no ethical dimension to my actions, or another nihilistic thing is nothing exists. But that really leads us down a really dangerous path. Yeah, because then we do whatever we want and think it's not going to have any result. And when the result comes, then we go, what did I do to deserve this? Yeah, why me? And we never consider that maybe I created the cause for it. That's why me. Yeah. Okay, so that's one extreme. The other extreme is an absolutist extreme, or an extreme of superimposition, where we project a way of existing onto persons and phenomena that they don't have. What is that way of existing? We're putting on them inherent existence. Okay, what in the world is inherent existence? Now, it's hard to give a definition for something that does not exist. Yeah, and that's kind of one of the tricks in the meditation on emptiness, is we are searching because we believe that things have their own inherent nature and exist from their own side. Yeah, and when we search for them, sometimes I can't find them, but everything's here, and it must have its own nature. Yeah. If a paper doesn't have the nature of paper, what is it? Okay. And so we think, okay, everything has its own nature. And when we look at our friends, when we think of ourselves, we think, there's a real me. Yeah. Did you ever think that maybe you don't exist in the way you think you exist? Oh, no, that's what a ridiculous thought. Who would ever think that? I exist. I am here. And you see me, and I have all my possessions to prove it, and I have a body, and I have opinions, and these things are all mine. Of course I exist. I am reality. Don't give me any of this emptiness business. Okay? Yeah. Especially, when it comes up, is when you have some very strong emotion about or strong reaction about something. Okay? Somebody looks at you and says, "You're a racist." And you go, "Who are you talking about? You're not talking about me." But there's a feeling inside, this guy's blaming me. He's trashing me. He's saying, I am a racist. And to quote our great leader, I am the least racist person in the country. Yeah. So there's a very strong feeling of I then, isn't there? Yeah. When you're just sitting and reading a book, if somebody says, "What are you doing?" you say, "I'm reading a book," and go back to it. But there's a difference in your internal feeling, your sense of I, when you say, "I'm reading a book," like that, and "Don't you call me a racist. I am not one." Yeah, how the I appears to us is very different in those two situations. But we think that it's the same I all through. So when we're trying to identify what inherent existence is, so that we can negate it, because it doesn't really exist, we have to identify what inherent existence would look like if it existed. I mean, this is tricky, isn't it? We have to have a picture of something that doesn't exist so that we can negate it doesn't exist. Yeah. And if we don't have the correct picture of what this non-existent inherent existence is, then we won't be able to negate it properly. Yeah. It's tricky. Okay. So we're kind of stuck, between these two extremes of superimposing inherent existence on phenomena, whereas they do not exist with their own nature from their own side. And then the other extreme of, well, nothing exists at all, so I don't need to worry about anything. Yeah? And so we say, the middle way view. That's what the Buddha taught, middle way view. So we have this idea, like whenever we want the middle way, you take the two ends, add them together, and cut them in half. Yeah, but that's not the middle way Madhyamaka view. So what does middle way mean then? Yeah. Okay. So in parting from the four clingings, which we chanted today. Yeah? There's one verse. There is no liberation for those who grasp at existence, so those who think that things have their own nature that makes them them. There's no liberation for those people. There's no higher rebirth for those who grasp at non-existence. Now, wait a minute. How come one is there's no liberation and the other one is there's no upper rebirth? That's not fair. Yeah. There should be equal penalties for both of these extremes, right? So why do you think that it's like that? Yeah. Why do you think that if you grasp at non-existence, that nothing exists, you won't have an upper rebirth? Anybody have any ideas? Yeah.
There's no ethical component to our actions. There's no good or bad. No going anywhere. I'm not responsible for the karma that is happening.
Yeah.
Because there's no self there. There's nobody existing there.
Yeah. And so you think that, with that view, then no necessity to create virtue, to create good karma. And if we don't create good karma, then, quick ticket to get off in the lower realms. Yeah. If we grasp at inherent existence, we can still create the cause for an upper rebirth. Yeah, because even though we may grasp at inherent existence, we can still tell the difference between virtue and non-virtue, even though we are misperceiving how virtue and non-virtue exist. We're thinking they inherently exist when they don't, but we can still see that conventionally they do, and so I need to be careful of what I say and do and think. Okay? And then the third line, those who grasp at both are ignorant. Yeah? So sometimes we say, okay, well, I can't totally grasp at existence, inherent existence, and I can't totally grasp at total non-existence. So I'll put them together, but I won't divide them in half. So I grasp at both. And the answer is, that's ignorance. Yeah, you're grasping at two contradictory, mistaken ideas. Where's that going to get you? Okay, the resolution. So place your mind freely in the non-dual sphere. Okay, non-dual has many, many meanings. One meaning is neither of these two extremes. Another meaning is the no appearance of inherent existence, subject or object. And then there's several more meanings as well. Okay. So we need to be suitable vessels to really grok emptiness. Do younger people know what grok means? You do? Oh, I'm so excited. Really? Because once I asked and the younger people had no idea what grok meant. Yeah, but we know what grok means, don't we? Maybe the middle-aged people, yeah. Do you know what grok means?
I had to look it up.
Oh, okay. So it's every other generation, you understand. Okay. So Aryadeva talks about the qualities of suitable disciples. First, they're open-minded and they're willing to hear new ideas. Yeah, because emptiness is definitely going to be a new idea. Second, they're intelligent, and so they will examine and look at things, and they're able to discern what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, what is a reliable argument and what is a fallacious one. Oh, the next sentence, this was me. Some arrogant people erroneously think they have understood the subtle meaning of emptiness. And doing my Sangha exam on it. Oops. Yeah. And then teaching their wrong views to others, they not only harm themselves, but lead others astray. This was what Nagarjuna was saying. Okay, so then Chandakirti speaks of external signs that a teacher can look for to determine if somebody is a suitable vessel for learning about emptiness. So Chandakirti says, upon hearing about emptiness, even while an ordinary being, whoever gives rise repeatedly to great inner joy, tears flowing from utter joy moisten the eyes, and the hairs of the body stand on end. Are you getting goosebumps already? So those people have the seed of the mind of complete Buddhahood. That's me. They are vessels for the teaching of suchness. The ultimate truth is to be revealed to them. In that person, qualities that follow after that will arise. Okay? So then you reflect. When I first heard about emptiness, well, yeah, I had this sense of incredible joy. I was sitting there before this great master, and he spoke about emptiness. I just had so much joy, and a few tears came down. Yeah, I must be that kind of suitable disciple. Yeah, and the hairs on my body, where did they go? Oh, that's because they all stood up. I can't find them anymore. Yeah. And the hairs stood on end because I have so many seeds of hearing emptiness from my previous lives. Aren't you happy to have me as your disciple? Okay. So, yeah, and people, they hear this citation from Chandakirti, and I've had people come to me, and say, in one situation, somebody came and, they were really new, and they had never met a particular teacher before, and they were going in to hear the teachings. And the person said to me afterwards, when I saw the teacher, I just got shivers and goosebumps. I know he's my guru forever and ever. And I want to ordain as soon as possible. This wasn't me. This was somebody else. And Lekshe Soma, Venerable Lekshe Soma, and I were talking to this person and saying, slow down a little bit. It's good, listen to different teachers and really think about it and everything. That person got so mad at us because we wouldn't take them to the teacher right away and say, ordain. Yeah? Oh, she was so mad. It was very interesting, though, because years later, I was teaching in Montana, and she came to the retreat, and during a break time, she came up to me and she said, thank you many years ago when you discouraged me from ordaining after hearing one teachings. You were right. So, yeah. But, we come into things with a lot of ego. I cannot tell you, well, maybe you know already because maybe you've done that. Yeah. Anybody here wonder if they're actually a Rinpoche that hasn't been discovered? You know? Yeah. Oh, okay. Own up to it. Yeah, because you hear, all these Rinpoches, they have memories from past life, and they're this and they're that, and when you're a Rinpoche, then you really get to sit in the front row, and you have all these people around you going like this. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, all these Westerners, and and then they go and to some Lama and say, I think I'm a Rinpoche, and sometimes the Lamas will identify them. I wonder, and sometimes the person doesn't have the idea that they're a Rinpoche, but they are the director of a Dharma center and their family has a lot of money. And it's very interesting how sometimes a Lama will come and identify that student as a Rinpoche. Yeah, have you encountered that? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So here's because as we get into emptiness, we have to learn a little bit about logic and syllogisms too. So I thought I would use this as a way to explain to you what a syllogism is. Okay, so a syllogism is a very simple statement, that has a subject. It has a predicate, which is what you're trying to prove about the subject. And it has a reason that that predicate applies to the subject. Okay? So the first one we usually get is take the subject sound. Sound is impermanent because it's a product of causes. Okay? And then you check, the subject and the reason match because sound is a product of causes. Okay, the cause being striking the ground. Okay, then so that's called, that the subject matches the reason. What's the English term for it? Entailment? No, it's what? Chokchu. Oh yeah, chokchu. That's a good English word. Yeah, yeah. So that's the chokchu.
Property of the subject.
The what?
Property of the subject.
Property
Of the subject.
Yeah. So the reason is the property of the subject. I was looking for one term, but this one, that's why I can never say it because I want it to be one thing and it's not. And then, so you check that, and then you check, does the reason also, is everything that is the reason also the predicate? Okay, so is everything that is a product of causes necessarily impermanent? Yes. Okay, you can't have something that's a product of causes that is totally static and never changes. Okay, now that was your crash course. Let's make some syllogisms based on what I just said here about. Okay, so let's talk about Henry. Okay, so Henry has realized emptiness because his hair stands on end when he hears teachings about emptiness. Okay, is that a correct syllogism? Why not? Why isn't it a correct syllogism? Huh? Okay, there's no privation. What does that mean?
That it's not because the hairs stand on end when he hears teaching about emptiness that he necessarily has realized emptiness.
Yeah, so just because your hair stands on end when you hear about emptiness doesn't mean that you've realized emptiness. Your hair could stand on end because it's cold. Okay, so that we say there's no privation. But, yeah, okay, so that automatically throw that out. So then you can see that the people who are going around saying, but my hair stood on end, it means I've realized empty, that, they don't understand. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so Henrietta has, Henry and Henrietta. So Henrietta hasn't realized emptiness because she doesn't cry when she hears teachings on emptiness. Yeah, she cries a lot about a lot of other things, but she doesn't cry when she hears about emptiness. Okay, so that means she hasn't realized emptiness. Is that a good argument? No. What's wrong with that one?
Just because someone doesn't cry when they hear teachings on emptiness doesn't mean they haven't realized emptiness.
Yeah. Okay, just because someone doesn't cry when they hear the teachings on emptiness doesn't mean that they haven't realized it. Okay. So again, here in that one, there's no privation. Okay, so you guys have, all your logical reasoning all down pat. Okay. Okay. So in the Ornament of Clear Realization, Maitreya's text, that talks about the perfection of wisdom. Actually, it talks about the hidden subject of the perfection of wisdom, which are all the phenomena that are empty. But that's going off on another tangent. Okay, anyway, Maitreya's text says that suitable vessels for teachings on emptiness are students who have made offerings to the three jewels, created roots of virtue, and are under the guidance of a qualified and virtuous spiritual mentor. Okay, so I offered a grapefruit. And so I made offerings to the three jewels. I created the roots of virtue because I mopped the floor with bodhicitta motivation. And I'm under the guidance of His Holiness Dalai Lama. So I'm under the guidance of a qualified virtuous spiritual mentor. So that's all I need. What do you think? No, that's not going to work either. Okay, so a great collection of merit is needed before learning about emptiness to ensure that the student will adequately think about the teachings, reach correct understandings, and thus benefit from the teachings. Okay, and the students need to exert effort to understand emptiness. So this is not a topic for the lazy. Okay, but it's not a question of exerting effort because this is a difficult topic, but it's me and against emptiness, and I'm going to realize it. So I'm going to put my effort into realizing emptiness. So I'm going to read every book about emptiness. Okay, done with that one. What's next? Yeah. I'm going to read every book about emptiness. And then I'll have it down pat. Okay. Good luck. Okay. So then, we really need to think about, what, when it's talking about a proper disciple, is offering one grapefruit going to do it? Well, it might if you have a really virtuous motivation. But if you're in a hurry, because you overslept and you got to get that grapefruit on the altar before, things start in the meditation hall. So you run up and put the grapefruit down and run off. It looks like you made an offering to the Buddha, but did you? Okay. So to make your mind receptive to emptiness, engage in practices to accumulate merit and purify negativities, and develop a firm foundation in the Buddhist worldview and the Four Truths. Okay, so this is why we do a lot of the preliminary practices, the Nundro practices, to purify and to create merit. So we do, for example, 100,000 prostrations. And we do that not because it's good exercise. And we do it not to get to 100,000. But as one Lama said, it gives us 100,000 times, 100,000 chances to do one prostration with sincerity and the right view. Okay? So when we're doing the prostrations, we need to be thinking about what kind of actions have we done in the past that we want to purify. And so at the beginning, it's not too difficult. Okay, I lied to my sister. I stole crayons in first grade. You get through all of that stuff. Then you go into the adult stuff. Oh, yeah, well, there I lied to my boss and I stole some material from the office. Same habits, just different things. So I purified that. Okay. And then you go, so I purified everything. All my negative karma is gone. Because I thought of everything negative I've done in my whole life, and I've admitted it. Really? Every negative thing you've done in your life? Well, even if you have, what about your past lives? Well, I don't remember them, so they don't count. My negativities in previous lives don't count because I don't remember them. And anyway, they were done by a different person. They weren't done by me. Right? Me and my previous life were two different people. My previous life was Madeline. And now I'm Chodron. Well, I wasn't born Chodron, but two different people. Madeline created the negativities. And before that, before being Madeline, I was a tiger. And that tiger ate a lot of animals. It's a murderer. But that was, again, a different person. It's not me. I don't have to experience the result of what I didn't create. What do you think? Is that correct or not correct? Why not? Huh? Your karma follows you, but it's two different people.
It's the same
The same continuity. But Madeline and the tiger are so different than who I am now. How could it be the same continuity? You mean I was once a tiger? Well, maybe that accounts for my anger this life. Oh, but I was also a stink bug in a previous life. And I was also, I was also once president of the universe. Yeah, I was that too. But they're all different people than me, so I wasn't them. Yeah, you have to really think, well, what in the world is a continuity? Yeah, because we think, okay, if you say it's the continuity of the same person, then here's Madeline. Okay, now Madeline is going to get reborn as Chodron. Okay, so that means there must be something or someone that is truly Madeline, that will be reborn as Chodron. Otherwise, how could it be the same continuity? So there's a soul. Madeline has a soul, a permanent soul that is truly existent, a truly existent person. And that is what goes from Madeline's life to Chodron's life. Huh? Right? What do you mean, no? Something has to go. Yeah, something has to go from one life to the next. Yeah, okay, the body doesn't. So, Madeline has that straight blonde hair that Chodron always wanted but never got. Yeah. So so the body didn't go from one life to the next. But there's a soul, there's somebody who was really Madeline, and all that karma, is tacked on to Madeline. It must be her soul that goes over to this life. Otherwise, and the karma must be tacked onto it somehow. Otherwise, the karma is just going to float in the universe, and how's it going to go from Madeline to Chodron? Explain that one. Anyone want to try?
The soul is permanent, it can't change. And so everything is changing all the time, so that doesn't make sense. So it's a seed, a trace, a very subtle like imprint that comes on the mind stream when you die and then get reborn. That's what goes.
Oh, so the mind stream is the soul.
No.
You just said the mind stream goes from one life to the next.
The mind
and
stream
it carries all that karma.
The mind stream can't be destroyed. It continues.
Yeah, it continues, but that's because it doesn't change.
No.
So it can take the karma with it.
No.
Oh, karma's got to be attached to something. Yeah? If you tell me that I go from here to Spokane, yeah, there's got to be something that's really me that goes from here to Spokane. Oh, ridiculous. Okay. We say, oh, I'm not a non-Buddhist who thinks about permanent souls. Really? Are you sure? One time, this was hilarious. It was a deer park in Wisconsin, and Geshe Zopa was teaching. And Lama Zopa was there, hearing the teachings, and I was there. And let me see, who are we talking about? Oh, so after one class, one time, Rinpoche, Lama Zopa, was asking me about, I think it was, must have been Circum Rinpoche. And, because we both knew the previous Circum Rinpoche and we both know the present Circum Rinpoche. And he was asking me about the present Circum Rinpoche's kind of personality and his habits and what he likes and stuff like that. And I was trying to answer that. And then Rinpoche Lama Zopa said, well, it's just the same person, kind of, that you're going, does he have the same traits as his previous life? It's just the same person, isn't it? And then we both burst out laughing because just that day Geshe Zopa had talked about how it's not the same person. Yeah. But it sure feels like the same person, doesn't it? Yeah. When you meet, I see people when they meet the incarnation of one of their lamas, like when people first met Lama Yeshe, okay, then they can't come out of the incarnation of Lama Yeshe Osa. When they came out of the meeting of him, then everybody says, did he recognize you? Yeah. Did he call you by your name? Yeah. Did he tell the same kind of jokes that Lama used to tell? Here's that grasping that there was Lama with a particular personality that they thought would just, like in the movies, pick up out of one body, move over, and jump into the next body. Yeah. And that's not how it works. Yeah. The two serial rebirths can have very, very different mental habits, very different personalities. They say that the 13th Dalai Lama was very serious. Yeah. And the 14th Dalai Lama he can be serious, but he's also very relaxed. Oh, wait a minute. If it's the same person, then it should be the same personality, shouldn't it? How can it be a different personality? Aren't we our personality? Don't you feel like you're your personality? Like I'm somebody who is quick to temper. That's who I am. Or I'm somebody who can very easily facilitate people getting to know each other. Yeah, that's me. It's my personality. I'm a good listener. Or I like to talk a lot. Yeah. And we think that's me. It's a fixed personality. Yeah. So you see, yeah, we are permanent.
Could you say they are different but related by cause and effect?
What do people think? What's different but related? The personality, the person, the body, the mind.
Is different.
What?
The person is different. They're not the same, but they're related as cause and effect.
Oh, but if it's two totally different persons, then you can't have a link between them.
Well, a seed is also different from a sprout, and there is a link.
Yeah. But that's gardening. Okay. Yeah. The seed and the sprout are not the same thing. There's a link, but so what? Yeah, they don't function in the same way. They're different. Are they the same thing? A seed and a sprout? Are the people in two lives? We say so-and-so reincarnated and is so-and-so. Yeah? So Madeline is Chodron. That means they're the same. No, they're not the same. They're different people. If they're different people, then how can they be part of the same continuum? What does it mean to be the same, and what does it mean to be different?
Same is same in name and meaning, exactly 100% the same. Different, completely different in name and meaning. So the two people, they're different, but it's like, I think this comes down to the general I and the specific I.
Oh,
So there's a general I across lifetimes, where a continuity of consciousness, one moment of mind, producing the next, exactly as Karen is saying, cause and effect. But there's the specific I's, the individuals of each life that are different, different causes and effects, different causes ripening, producing different personalities, different traits, different manifestations.
yeah. So when Madeline dies, she is not Chodron. When Madeline dies, she just stops.
The imputation of Madeline onto those aggregates stops. And then the subtle mind
No,
continues.
it doesn't, because we say Madeline took rebirth as Chodron. So the imputation's still there.
But it's referring to the previous aggregates of the last life. In the new life, the aggregates are different.
Yeah. So what's this thing about it's the same person?
It's not the same person. Different people. There's still a continuity of consciousness related by cause and effect, as Karen is saying.
Continuity of consciousness. Yeah. Consciousness is a person.
Mm-mm.
And it just goes from one life to the next. Yeah, then there's a soul that's the person that goes.
No, but if the consciousness was the person, then we'd have to say that the consciousness eats, the consciousness poops, the consciousness walks. The consciousness is not the person.
My consciousness is different than me? Really?
It's the basis of imputation.
So who's running the show, me or my consciousness?
There's no one running the show, Scarab.
Somebody's got to be running the show in this mess.
That's why there is a mess.
Venerable Chodron, we also have someone online with their hand up.
Oh, okay.
Whenever there's the window to do that.
Okay. Sure.
Is that an invitation to say something, or was that you need to wait?
Wait a minute. Where are you on the screen? Oh, Rishika. Okay, go ahead.
I think right there. Hi, Venerable.
Good. I haven't seen
Let's
you
see.
for a while.
I know, I've been hiding out.
Are you the same person that I saw last time, or are you a different person?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know who I am most days. Where did I go? You know. But let me know. So, and my voice might go out. I have the flu. So my thought about it being the same person. So essentially, it's that, say, person from their previous incarnate, the actions from that person's previous incarnations in the aggregates and the traits that they will take on in their next incarnation. But it affects how their form, personalities, there's so many factors, and also the environment in which they are now in it. And also too, like Pate said, like, I'm pretty sure I had a problem, well, still have a problem with lying. I'm like, I lie about anything, like, hey, that grain of rice is longer than the other. Why'd you have to do that? But it gives that person different predisposition. So yes, they are that. I think the actions and the things and the realizations from that previous life impact their next incarnation, how they appear, how they express themselves, what their predispositions are, along with the environment and whom they interact with. It's just so many different things. I think what does the continuum, I think there may be like permanent things in the continuum and also temporary things like seeds and other things, predispositions and things. But I think like their core realizations and knowledge, that is theirs. It can't be learned. Now they might have trouble remembering it, which is why they might have to have teachers, but that coreness is there. And you're laughing, so I'm guessing I'm wrong, but I like it.
No, you're doing pretty well, kind of.
Holy. Is that one of the, you're not going to understand anything I'm saying right now, but also to a disclaimer, I did think I was a suitable vessel for this course prior to my iPhone autocorrect, literally, and I can show you, telling me learn spelling, because
Learn what? Spelling.
it literally said learn spelling. I can send it to you. It said learn spelling, because even with the power of the World Wide Web backing it, it could not figure out what I was trying to say. So it literally, like, not even in a complete sentence, just told me to learn how to spell. So I'm not sure if I'm still a suitable vessel, but that is my take on it. So
Okay.
I feel like these are things that are set in there.
Oh, very
So, yeah,
good.
Go ahead and tell me how wrong I am. I'm ready.
Okay. Good. Well, this is something we should think about. Yeah. I mean, aside from learning to spell. Yeah. Kind of, what is it, even from yesterday to today? Yeah. Was there something that went from yesterday to today? You have the same name. You have similar habits and things like that. So, aren't there some things there? Your habits. Yeah, because you do it yesterday, you do it today. So they went from yesterday to today, so that your habits don't change. Gotcha. Your habits don't change, do they? Oh, forget that. I'm talking about your habits. No, that doesn't refute the argument. Yeah. If your habits don't change, then, there's something that is permanently you, that goes from life to life.
We can change our habits.
But if they went from one moment to the next moment, they must be the same. Anyway, think about it. When I wrote the books, it was like I was paying attention to the context and the spelling and the sentences. And now I read it and it's like, wow, I need to think about this. Yeah, I'm not looking at the commas, okay, and periods. Okay, so His Holiness says, try to learn and reflect as your spiritual mentor and the lineage masters instruct, so that you are not the confused students Aryadeva speaks about. People who, not understanding the teachings, fault the Buddha for not explaining them well. Think emptiness means nothing whatsoever exists, or they favor views that make them feel emotionally comfortable, though those views are not supported by reasoning. That sounds like me. I heard a story about a Buddhist monk who converted to Christianity. When a friend asked him why, he responded, Buddhism explains things that are impossible for me to do. Yeah, such as realize emptiness, manifest many bodies, and so on. But in Christianity, all I have to do is have faith and God will provide for everything. I can do that. Can you imagine being a monk and then saying that to His Holiness? May I never do that. Okay? So do not take the teachings about emptiness for granted. Okay. So if we follow an intelligent approach to the Buddhist teachings, diligently study them, and gain a correct understanding, the Buddha Dharma will endure. So this is a point that Geshe Topke has been emphasizing in the commentary on the Diamond Sutra, the Vajra Sutra. Yeah, the helping the Buddha Dharma to endure in the world. But if we rely only on faith and worship the three jewels without valuing their realization of emptiness, how long will the Dharma exist in our world? If we can explain the Buddhist philosophical views on the basis of reason and science, people today will pay attention. I think His Holiness has more faith in science than I do. Maybe because, I respect science a lot, and people have discovered a lot of things. But like I've said before, science will say, we've found this, and this is true. And then the next year, they found that the opposite is true. And the year after that, that some third thing is true. Yeah. It's interesting. Science has done fantastic work, but they also change their mind a lot. Yeah. Don't they? Yeah. Okay, thus it is important to study the sutras and the treatises, commentaries and auto-commentaries of the great Indian scholar adepts. The classical Indian commentaries unlock the meaning of the terse root verses, and those root verses are very terse. There's a lot of words missing from them, so they're easy to misunderstand. So the commentaries enable us to discern the assertions of other tenet systems from those of our own, and so to really understand what a text is saying. Okay, so when people who are suitable vessels hear teachings about emptiness, good qualities will arise in them. And so here again is a quote from Chandrakirti, talking about the good qualities that come if you are a suitable vessel that hears teachings. After adopting an ethical code, they will always abide in ethical conduct. You mean emptiness makes me believe in ethical conduct and cause and effect and karma and its results? Really? Okay, those people will practice generosity, cultivate compassion, meditate on fortitude, and fully dedicate the virtue of these towards awakening for the sake of liberating migrators. They will respect the exalted bodhisattvas. So why would these things be qualities of someone who has realized, who has heard teachings and correctly understands them, not necessarily realize them? Okay, so why would that kind of person adopt an ethical code and abide in ethical conduct? Why would having an understanding of emptiness make that happen?
Perhaps because they see that they have their own, like there's this responsibility if one wants to experience positive results and happiness, that one has to create those causes, and the causes of happiness or a upper rebirth are to practice good ethics and to this far-reaching practices and dedicate towards awakening and that aspiration.
That's all true, but how does an understanding of emptiness make that happen?
Nothing is inherently existent. There's nothing solid or fixed existing in the person, then there's the possibility for change, and that change is happening because of causes and conditions coming together and coming apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so, since there's nothing inherently determining what is going to happen to this person in the future, or because there is no creator determining what's going to happen to this person, seeing the benefits of ethics, and that a cause will lead to a concordant result. They're going to want to, you would think, create causes for the ability to keep practicing and wanting to really realize emptiness, and that will take a fortunate rebirth where they can keep being exposed to these teachings and keep working on it. And so ethics are the foundation of creating the causes for human rebirth.
Okay. Can I give you a quick way of saying that?
Please.
If you understand emptiness, then you understand because things are empty, they arise dependently. That emptiness and dependent arising come to the same point. And so understanding emptiness makes you more aware of how causes and conditions function in your life. And that awareness makes you more careful about your ethical conduct. Yeah. So the trick is seeing that emptiness and dependent arising come to the same point. That's not so easy. Okay. Yeah. So it's because of that, again, they'll practice generosity, cultivate compassion, meditate on fortitude, and dedicate the virtue. Because if you have a really profound understanding of emptiness, they say that it really increases your awareness and your confidence in cause and effect and in karma, and thus in your ethical conduct and creating virtue and purifying non-virtue and so on. Okay. So this increases and stabilizes their faith in karma and its effects, which is essential to avoid the extreme of nihilism. Convinced that realizing emptiness is the key to awakening, they are keen to learn, reflect, and meditate on emptiness from one life to the next without interruption, even though they're different people, but they're actually the same person. To ensure they have future lives with all the conducive conditions to do this, they create the causes for fortunate rebirths by cherishing ethical conduct, and they purify any previously created causes so that they cannot ripen. So to prevent poverty from interfering with their ability to receive teachings, they practice generosity to receive resources. To have a good rebirth, they practice ethical conduct. To have a fortunate rebirth, to have a good appearance, so people will want to teach you. That doesn't mean that you're a beauty queen, but you're not. You don't have some kind of physical attribute that makes people turn away. Yeah. So for that, then it's practicing patience and fortitude. Isn't that interesting? And the link between that is when you're angry, you look ugly. Yeah. And so if you don't practice fortitude and patience, then you get that kind of rebirth. Okay? So it's really coming here to how the more you understand emptiness, the more you are willing to practice all the rest of the path. Yeah. You don't just say, oh, well, I haven't understood emptiness, and that's the top thing to understand, so I got it. Forget everything else. You can make offerings to me. I don't have to be generous. No, that person really sees the importance of and all the method aspect of the path and practices it. This stuff is important to remember. Yeah, because if we don't remember it, then when we get some kind of understanding, then our mind can go in the wrong direction. Okay, so we've run out of time. I was hoping to get further, but we still can't figure out if we're one and the same person or different people from yesterday to today. Are you different people? You have a split personality? Yeah? Oh, yesterday I was Madeline. Well, if this is the first moment of this life, maybe that's true. Okay, so we'll dedicate the merit, and then so think about this, yeah? And then we'll continue next week. If we can figure out who we are and who we aren't. Yeah. Will the same person come to teachings next week? Oh, you're going to be different people. So it's going to be a whole different audience next week. So then I have to talk about what I talked about today again next week, because the people next week would not have heard what I talked about because they're different people.